Paleo Keepers, today we're making the enclosure for the Juxia, and the way I'm going to do it is have like an outdoor area which is attached to a house, but have it in quite a slightly smaller fixture but enough room for them to move around outside. These are basically a smaller version of the Peripheria, but the only issue is with it is it still has the same build size when it comes to like buildings. So even though it's smaller, it's still seen by the game as a large creature. So when you're making like the housing for it, you need to make sure that you leave a big enough gap, like one that looks way too big for it. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to go in and out of the building itself. So I need to put that into like mind when making the housing for it. Right now, you can just see I'm making a very simple fence for it, as I do enjoy making box enclosures. These are enclosures that I can just sort of like place down wherever, and that's the reason why I make them where they are, because when I put them to workshop, some times you don't really want to be adding a huge enclosure which you need to do tons of work to. So I try and make my enclosures pretty simple, square like, and you can almost do like a New York style grid kind of zoo with my builds, and I do try and keep them square, circle, or reasonable shape, and not something that's absolutely truly massive. So you see right now what I'm doing is testing to see what kind of gap. It turns out I needed it sort of basically 3 squares wide, and then a square and a bit tall for them to get in and out of the building. It's just how I test to make sure that the creatures can get in there, just sort of wave them around. But yeah, basically I copy the fencing that's on the outside to put on the inside, where I'll have my little keeper area where it's safe for the keepers to go in and out of. And make that nice and simple, not too fancy. I kept the building kind of plain on the inside. Obviously, you guys, if you add it to your zoos, you can easily add more to it. The reason why I kept it plain is because I'm not really going to be on the inside looking at the creatures from there. I'm mainly going to be looking from them on the outside. Now, near me, there's a Glasgow. It's a type of plastic factory, and that's the kind of design of the roof of that building. I thought, you know what, I'm going to make that roof in the game. It's something a bit different from what I usually do, where I have like basically the flat roof with a slight of a trim around the top of it. So I thought I'd make something a little bit different than using the same roof over and over again, which I do, just so it looks slightly different. Yeah, nothing too much to it really. Just wanted something a bit different, and I go around decorating the outside of the building, try and make it so it doesn't look like it's just straight up concrete. I didn't add any other windows other than the skylight to the building as well, so I wanted it to be pretty simple, pretty nice, and obviously it's not the main part of the view, so I'm going for that sort of modern, like minimalistic kind of look with it. And then I do make the sliding doors, and it takes me a while kind of messing around with it, seeing what works, what doesn't, and then like trying to figure out basically how the animals can still get in and out without that barrier being affected, and then also trying to make it so it looks nice for the building. In the end, what I'm trying to do is try and make it so it's a split door, so it opens side by side. I changed the wood for the Stone Age one because I really do like that log kind of look. And as you can see there, that's the way I'm basically doing it, so it'd open like part ways. And again, I have to sort of mess around with the doors because it took me a while to figure out. I wasn't too sure if it was the door that was stopping them from getting in. So I carefully moved the doors, and then I realized it was actually the beams that I put like on the above where the door would slide up and down. So I had to lift it up ever so slightly for them to be able to get back in and out of that house, and to be able to use it, and then go around back. Just carry on adding a few decorations to the outside of the building, the ones that you'd easily see. I start preparing as well the beds, because I wanted some flower beds as like a standoff barrier between guests and the actual enclosure. And then at the back as well, just a bit of barrier. So I wanted to add trees and some nice looking plants in there. And yeah, I gave them some fruit. I didn't even check if they can eat that, you know. So, yeah, I gave them some fruit. It looks nice. But anyways, going back to it, I made a like a viewing area that's raised so you can see down into the enclosure and almost kind of like eyesight. This is a little bit higher than their eyes, so it's almost like a bit of an eyesight sort of thing. Gave it some modern looking stairs because I'm just not a fan of the like using the stairs that come with the caveman, the Stone Age wood look. Like they look cool, but they also look a bit like a trip hazard in my eye. So I went with the modern wood stairs and then went back to the Stone Age wood as like a platform and sort of added in some support so it looks like there's some actual structure to this building rather than it just sort of floating there on poles and it being shaky and wobbly. And then I go into doing like the flowers. I did some of the corners slightly heavily planted, and then I didn't want to like take away from the enclosure too much or block the view, so I sporadically added plants here and there into the bedding box and then use that flat kind of plant there, so then it's not over planted and you can easily see into the enclosure from like a guest kind of perspective. And then I added a fair few different bushes, plants, trees into the back there just to make it look pretty, loads of flowers and things like this, so it looks interesting in the enclosure and stands out a fair bit. And obviously it's raised up, it's at the back, so it's not getting trampled on by these creatures as well. Then I had a nice little simple path which I connect to the main one, and then a little staff path to the staff door there. And then I just used the grassland sort of brush just to add some taller grasses. It looks like the panther grasses like left the bedding box and spread out for the enclosure, and it just adds a little bit of like depth and texture to it. It looks kind of nice as well. I used a bit of dirt and just plainly loose like round the enclosure, and I just went around slightly neating up all the plants, and yeah, that's it done. I'm really happy with the way this build like turned out. It's again another aesthetic looking build to me. I really like that square look. They've got that house, they've got some like flowers and bedding box areas, and yeah, it's just a really nice simple build. I think in total it took me about, maybe I did have a few breaks in between, but I think in total it's about 50-40 minutes to like make all this. No, maybe a bit less, maybe. No, maybe. Well, let's go around. I think it took me about 40 minutes. I completely lost because I did a bit, went to go and do stuff around the house and came back to it. And yeah, I really do enjoy the way this enclosure looks and the way they move around it. And I'm going to be adding this to the workshop. If you do want to add it to your zoos, it's on there. And as always, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments if there's something you'd like me to see make next in Prehistoric Kingdom. And I'll see you later.